All right, we are live for our Huntington Beach Open main draw day number 1 recap. A very fun day of beach volleyball here. I hope you were watching along, following along on Bally Live, following along. I saw my guy NY Varsity Sports had a stream up. I saw a lot of you guys in the Troy Field live stream of that final match there. Troy and Theo versus Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans. Troy and Theo had to win that one to qualify for a spot in the league. They took it 3, got a couple of trickle aces in that third set to give them a little bit of a lead. Not to be. Troy and Theo falling just short of the league, and a tense, anxious, onlooking Sean Cook and Brian Miller with the loss there qualify for the 8th and final spot in the AVP League. Welcome to the people that are joining me on Instagram Live. Welcome to the people that are joining me on YouTube Live. If you're on Instagram, you're going to miss out on a couple of the images we got for you. We'll have a look at the brackets. We'll have a look at the breakdown, who's in, who's out. Let's start here. Let's start live with what's going on. Women's side, 7 of the 8 spots are determined. We went into the day with 2 spots left to be determined. Savvy-Simo, Abby Van Winkle held a second, so they were in the driver's seat. Jaden Whitmarsh, Devin Newberry held a second. They were in the driver's seat. But as we talked a couple of days ago, terrible draws for both of them. Devin and Jaden had to go through the qualifier on Friday, had to play 3 matches yesterday just to get to today, and then faced off against Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw. Savvy-Simo, Abby Van Winkle in the 8-9 matchup had to face Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg. That one went 3 as well, and a devastating loss for Sav and Ab as they bow out of the league with a 2nd and a 9th. So at that point, all eyes turned to Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw. All eyes turned to Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft. Now, here's the thing. All day long, we've had to keep in our minds that there is a chance that an outlier, somebody you don't expect, somebody that wasn't holding a good finish, could come in here today and win the whole thing. That's why, as of only about 25 minutes ago, we're still keeping an eye on Alisson and his partner Alvaro Filio, because if they had made it all the way to a 2nd, they could have bumped Sean and Brian. If they had made it to a 1st, they could have won the whole thing and taken a spot, bar none, no matter what, no questions asked. That situation still exists here on the women's side. We have, we'll take a look at the most recent brackets here. Of the quarterfinal matchups, we have 2 left going on, 2 done. 1 done, 3 left to go. TKN are still facing off against Kylie DeBerg and Haley Harward. Let's get a refresh there just to make sure I'm giving you the most recent information. TKN ends up winning that. Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss wins that in 3, 2 sets to 1. Kelly Chang, Molly Shaw, they do what they need to do against Gina Urango and Tony Rodriguez. Now, going into that one, I had posted that Kelly and Molly were in. Technically not 100% true. I talked to a few guys in the chat there. It was really like a 95% because there was a tiebreak situation, and that tiebreak situation relates to what we are watching right now. Let me give you a sneak peek in here. This is courtesy of, and again, if you're on Instagram, switch over to YouTube. You get to see a live feed here. Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft, they held a 3rd-place finish coming into today. They are currently leading Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst 14-9 first set. Why am I telling you that? Because Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst came into today with a usable finish. Tegan Van Gunst and Zolani Hodel, they held a 5th coming into today. So they had an opportunity today with a 3rd to tie Kelly, Molly, and Therese Megan as we sat here about 20 minutes ago. Since then, Kelly and Molly have got the win over Gina and Tony. They are in. Kelly and Molly, let me be the first to tell you, Kelly and Molly have secured the 7th of 8 spots in the AVP League. Right now, if you're looking at odds, Therese and Megan are like 85, 90, 95% odds to claim that final spot. All they need to do is win this match, a match that they're currently winning 15-11 first set against Hodel and Van Gunst. If Hodel and Van Gunst take a win and Therese and Megan take a loss, and then let's say Hodel and Van Gunst lose in the semifinals tomorrow, both teams will have a 5th and a 3rd. Then we're getting into set ratios and point ratios, and as I said a couple of times today in the comments with the people, I ain't doing all that math. Here's what it comes down to. The story is over for today for the AVP League. I shouldn't say for today. For the AVP League, if Therese and Megan get a win here. and they are currently winning 15-12 in that first set. And as I said, if you're watching on YouTube, you see that right over here, a live look-in, courtesy of the AVP via the Bally Live app, streaming Courts 1 and Stadium Court and Court 1 all day long. So let's, as we keep an eye on this one, let's circle back and kind of close the picture, close the door on the men's side. When we started the day today, we had a lot of teams in the mix. We had as many as, let me show you right now, I think we had as many as 9 teams in the mix. 6 of them bringing fifth place finishes to the table here today. 2 of them bringing third place finishes. One, that's Sean Cook and Brian Miller bringing a second place finish. Really all Sean and Brian needed to do was win one today to really seal the deal, and they weren't able to do that. First round matchup against a plucky, as I said a couple of days ago, dangerous 7 seed, Theo Brunner and Troy Field. Sean and Brian go the distance, go the full 3 sets with Theo and Troy. Sean and Brian taking that first set 21-15. Theo and Troy come back, bounce back, and take that second set 22-20. Third set, all eyes. We were all in the Troy Field live stream on Instagram. We were Instagram living it, keeping everybody updated on the scores, going back and forth between the AVP live score and the Instagram live of Troy Field. Theo Brunner and Troy Field. 2, as I said, trickle aces late in that third set. They carried about a 1.5, 2.5 point lead through the majority of that third set. Unfortunately, Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans just a little bit too much for Troy and for Theo. Troy and Theo, with a win, would have qualified. They would have been in, no questions asked. With a loss, they are out. So it came down to one match for Troy and Theo. And at the end of the day, Troy and Theo bow out. They take a 5th and a 5th here in the Huntington Beach Open, and that is not enough to qualify. Meanwhile, quietly, Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison bring a third-place finish to the table. What do they do today? They came into the match with their first-round matchup with... I'm trying to bring it up here for you. Sorry, I got to get my stuff here situated a little better. So on the men's side, Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison, we had talked about it, came into it with a really important matchup with Cody Caldwell and Ryan Wilcox. The 2 teams that had third place finishes, just by nature of seeding, ended up playing each other. So as I said a couple of days ago, that was really a very important match because the winner goes home and the loser puts themselves in a very good position. Avery, Wyatt win that one against Cody Caldwell and Ryan Wilcox. That was a 2-set win for Avery and Wyatt, 21-15, 21-18. So Avery and Wyatt really doing the job there. They end up losing in that second round matchup to Billy Allen and Taylor Crabb, a very tough 3 seed, the Bug and Billy Allen. Didn't matter. Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison, they end up qualifying. They ended up in the lead spot of the final teams, a 3rd and a 5th place finish today, 3rd. From a couple of weeks ago, they are qualified. They are in. Theo, Troy, as I said, they needed to win that match, and they needed to win the match in order to move on. They were not able to do that. Troy and Theo bow out, and Sean Cook and Brian Miller, despite taking a nice place finish, despite losing to Theo and Troy earlier in the day, they end up qualifying via points. A second place finish and a ninth place finish, and the always entertaining Sean Cook. We love Sean Cook here on Bet the Beach. He's in the league. Now, am I sad to see that Troy Field is not going to be in the league? Am I sad that Mr. Monster Block himself from the Drinking Game Season 1, Theo Brunner, is not in the league? I am. In a perfect world, I would say I'd love to see both Troy and Sean in the league, but it all comes down to points. It's a meritocracy here, and Sean and Brian did enough, gaining those 2 second-place finishes, one which they had to end up throwing away, and taking the 9th here in the Huntington Beach Open. Sean and Brian doing just enough to qualify for the league. The aforementioned Cody Caldwell and Ryan Wilcox, they end up with a 3rd and a 9th. They are out. Allison and Alvaro. We are watching that match very closely because with a win of the whole tournament, they would have grabbed an automatic bid, and there was an opportunity there, and thank you to Sean for correcting me in the DMs here earlier today, an opportunity there for Allison and Alvaro to take a second-place finish and then have a tiebreak situation with Sean and Brian. So that was a big result for Alessandro Nalvaro to bow out in that second round matchup to Hagen Smith and Logan Weber. Another awesome match. We were at one point we had Logan and Hagen versus Alessandro Nalvaro on the top screen here. We had Trevor Crabb and Phil Dahlhauser versus Andy Benish and Miles Partain. That one 1 and 2 by Benish and Partain here in the bottom screen. And we had the Troy Field live stream over here on my phone, just trying to keep up with it all. But the league has been determined on the men's side. Your two teams that are in the league. Let's take a look at them. On the screen right now, it is Drost and Harrison in. Sean Cook and Brian Miller in. Out. Troy Field, Theo Brunner out. Cody Caldwell, Ryan Wilcox. And then the rest of those teams you see on the screen there are out as well. Triborn and Evan Corey out of the league. Sadly, as I said a couple of days ago, just a brutal draw for Tri and Evan. They went up against Phil and Trevor. Took an early set there. Ended up going 3. At one point had a 10-7 lead in that third set. Did Tri and Evan. Ended up coughing that lead up. Ended up losing. And for the second straight year, both Tri and Evan, separate partners from last year, end up falling just short of qualifying for the AVP League. Very disappointing result for them. I'm feeling for those guys. I'm feeling for a lot of people today because there's a lot of teams that were very deserving, I think, of a berth in the league and just fell just short. So Tri and Evan on that list. Baumgren, Lotman, also a couple of good performances so far this season. They are on the list. Bradford Hoppy, Basie Queckel, Brewster Ierna bowed out in the qualifier just yesterday. So that's the story. And again, if you're on Instagram and you want to hop over to YouTube, you'll see the graphics here on your screen there. A little bit of a more stripped down version here on the Instagram Live. But the story of the Huntington Beach Open so far is the AVP League qualifiers. And congratulations to Avery Drost, Wyatt Harrison for taking the 7th spot, and to Sean Cook and Brian Miller for taking the 8th spot. Sean Cook, good to have in the league, an entertaining guy. I like him very much. And Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison, a real wild card, I think. We'll see how they can perform in the AVP League. As far as implications go for the Huntington Beach Open, this is still a tournament. There still is money on the line here. Single elimination, round of 16, quarterfinals done today. Let's take a look at the semifinals. Match number 13 tomorrow. The 1 seed versus the 12 seed. Smith-Weber upsetting Baumgren and Lotman in 3 in the round of 16. Smith-Weber beating Alessandro and Alvaro in 3 sets in the quarterfinals. They advance to take on the Olympians, Andy Benish and Miles Partain, who got there by beating Amato and Frischman in the round of 16, and then Trevor Crabb and Phil in straight sets in the quarterfinal. So it's Benish, Partain, Smith-Weber on one side of the bracket. On the other side of the bracket, Billy Allen and Taylor Crabb. A bunch of people asking, and I should be more, I should keep it in mind that I got to give you this information more and more frequently. Crabb and Sander have qualified. They're taking a spot in the league. Nothing changing there. Taylor Sander went to Indonesia, I believe, to play indoor over the winter. From what I'm hearing, that league, that season is just wrapping up now. We do expect to see the Bug and Taylor Sander playing again, the Taylors, in the AVP League. So this is I won't say one-off because I think Billy Allen and Taylor just won a CBVA just a couple weeks ago. But Taylor wanting to play in the Huntington Beach Open, wanting to put some money in his pocket, pairing up with Billy Allen. It's a dangerous 3 seed for the Bug and Billy Allen. And they have a good matchup tomorrow in the semifinals with Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans. That'll be a fun one to watch. I'm excited to see what Taylor Crabb and Billy Allen can do. I saw a clip earlier of via AVP's Instagram page. The McKibben's doing an awesome job all day, keeping you updated, keeping you entertained. Mark Sherman breaking down the tiers of what results are better than others, which was really helpful, by the way, because I'm thinking a 2nd and a 9th, that's an average finish of a 5th and a half, a 5th and a 5th, that's an average of finish of 5th. In reality, the 2nd and the 9th, according to the point system, is a little better than a 5th and a 5th. So I'll say this. I wish, and I'm hoping that in the future we can do a better job communicating that to you. I wish that I had known that, so I could have given that information to you earlier. Not that there weren't 8,000 different potential scenarios that could have broken out today, but good to know. And if you are curious about that, let me give you the exact breakdown of what that looks like. So a 2nd and a 3rd is the best that you can do as far as points qualifying finishes go. Or I guess a 2nd and a 2nd would be best. 2nd, 3rd, 3rd and a 3rd, 2nd and a 5th is next, then 3rd and a 5th, which makes sense. 2nd and a 9th is in front of a 3rd and a 9th, which is still in front of a 5th and a 5th, and then a 5th and a 9th is the last one there. So I know I'm saying a lot of words there, but ultimately what it comes down to is Sean Cook and Brian Miller's second and ninth is higher than Theo and Troy's fifth and a fifth, which is why Sean and Brian are in, which is why Allison and Alvaro are out with a fifth and a ninth, which is why Bruner and Field are out with a fifth and a fifth. So on the men's side, the story written, 3 straight tournaments over the course of 6 weeks, all single elimination. And what we get? Well, we qualified 4 different teams. We qualified Smith and Weber a few weeks ago. We qualified today Avery Drost, Wyatt Harrison. We qualified today Sean Cook and Brian Miller. And we qualified in the second AVP League qualifier, Kame Schock and James Shaw. So 3 tournaments, 4 teams punched their tickets to the league. And then an update on the women's side. As I said before, story not completely told. Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft, I gave it about an 85-90% chance of qualifying for the league entering this match. But Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst, they are sitting on a 5th place finish so far in league qualification. If they win this match here against Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft, that would be a 3rd and a 5th. Conversely, or you know what, better word for you, and it's the right word too, inversely. You like that, guys? Inversely? Bring up the dictionary. Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft bring a 3rd in, and if they lose this match, they have a 5th. So there's an opportunity here for Hodel and Van Gunst with a win to go 3rd and 5th, Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft 3rd and 5th, and then at that point, all eyes are on Hodel and Van Gunst with an opportunity tomorrow to go 5th and a 2nd, or 5th and a 1st, which would beat Therese and Megan's 5th and a 3rd, and that would tell the story, and that would carry the day for that 8th and final spot in the AVP League on the women's side. As I said, Kelly and Sarah already punched their ticket. Let's take a look at the women's brackets, why don't we? On the women's side, actually, tell you what, before we do that, because this we are into second set action, so let's take a look here. We'll do a live look-in on court number 1. Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft taking the first set, 21-15. It is currently all tied up at 5 apiece. A sports book would have given you pretty good odds here, money line odds on Therese and Megan. They're the team that's been playing internationally. They are the team, I think right now, that is pretty clear in a way the 3rd best American women's team. You got TKN at the top. You got Kelly and Molly. I guess in that number 2 spot, although you could make a pretty good argument for Therese and Megan or Kelly and Molly in that 2nd spot overall for American women. And, of course, I'm not including Brandy and Mel in that conversation, but I guess I should. They're playing on the AVP, so it's TKN, Mel, Brandy, which coincidentally or not coincidentally were your 1s and your 2 seeds in this tournament, Huntington Beach Open, both winning their first-round matchups. But if you want to go Mel, Brandy, and TKN on me, then it's a conversation about who's the 3rd best team in the United States are playing on the AVP. And then I think the question is it Kelly, Molly, or is it Therese and Megan? Both teams were, after the events of the first round, were in the driver's seat for that spot, but not over yet. Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst now taking a 7-5 lead over Therese and Megan. And looks like we have Zolani Hodel back to serve. Tegan Van Gunst with the peel, and a nice cross-court swing there by Megan Kraft makes it 6-7. So there's a pretty good chance here in about 14 points, 15 points. I can tell you that the women's side is all said and done. We know who's going to be in the AVP League. There's a chance as well here, 1 point lead or 1.5 point lead right now for Hodel and Van Gunst, that story carries into tomorrow. And either way, that story is going to carry into a potential tiebreak situation, because if Hodel and Van Gunst can take a win here, that gives them the worst case finish for them would be a 3rd. They take their 3rd and their 5th. They put it up against Therese and Megan's 3rd and a 5th. And then we got to take a look at what's happening. Zolani Hodel with a nice swing there. Deep seam there. And we have a side switch at be 9-6. Oh no, 8-6. Yeah. I'm back in the 15 game here. I'm thinking league style, 3 sets to 15. So these are all 21-21, and then the 3rd set's to 15. So that's your 14-point side switch, and it's an 8-6 lead there for Hodel and Van Gunst. Van Gunst serving. Looks like they're doing a little bit of split blocking with Zelani Hodel blocking on the Van Gunst serve, but Hannon and Kraft slide out like they're supposed to. So while we're watching that, let's bring it back here and let's talk early action so far today on the women's side. TKN getting it done, the 1 seed overall versus 16 seed. Don't need to talk about that. That's everything we all expected. Congratulations to all the qualifiers on both sides. 4 teams on the men's side, 4 teams on the women's side fighting their way out of the qualifiers, which isn't easy to do. And it's a real thankless gig there to play all day Friday, play 3 straight matches, get up early Saturday morning, and then face Taryn Brasher and Kristen Nuss. Arguably the best team in the world, if not the second best team in the world right now. So a thankless gig there coming out of the qualies, but TKN carrying the day, winning there, and moving on to the second round. The match I think that we were all watching, Savvy Simo, Abby Van Winkle versus Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg. A first-round matchup. That's an 8-9 matchup. And Savvy Simo and Abby Van Winkle, as we talked about earlier this week, and I think you all know that if you're following along with me, heartbreaking story. So AVP League qualification number 1 last year was based on the tournaments. If you won the tournaments, one of the 3 Heritage Series events, then you were in. If not, it was a points game. And when it came down to AVP Chicago, the last I won't say the last match, but Savvy Simo, Abby Van Winkle get eliminated. Haley Harward, Kylie DeBerg get eliminated. Both of them looking like they're in a spot for the 7 and 8 spots in the league. AVP comes down and says, hey, sorry, A-team's getting a wild card. We all understand why they give A-team a wild card. Nobody's fighting with that, not even the player, Savvy Simo, saying it makes sense. She understands. The thing is, Savvy Simo, Abby Van Winkle then have to play a tiebreak for the league. Nobody's watching it in an empty Chicago stadium. They lose. Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg move on. They end up on the Dallas Dream, and they're in the league. So then they get a 4th-place finish, and that carries them into this year's league. Savvy Simo, Abby Van Winkle missed the league the first time. Then they get to league qualification for season number 2. They get the 2nd-place finish, just like Jaden Whitmarsh and Devin Newberry. So both of them having 2nd-place finishes coming into today. And as I said in my video a couple of days ago, just an absolutely brutal draw. And it's a seeding game. It's a points game. It's nobody's choice. It's just the way it pans out. But for Jaden Whitmarsh and Devin Newberry having to go through the qualifiers, they pull a 13 seed overall. What does that mean? They are in the qualifiers. They're the 1 seed in the qualifiers. That means they got to play 3 matches on Friday just to get to today, just to face off against a 2-time Olympian Kelly Chang and her partner Molly Shaw, who's playing great volleyball right now. So a brutal draw there for Jaden and Devin. Kelly and Molly end up taking the win there. Same could be said for Savvy and Ab. They end up facing the same team that not 8 months ago they had to face in the tiebreak. It's an absolute win or go home for Sav and Ab. They take it 3 sets. Sav and Ab take the first set 21-12. Everything's looking good. They fight hard in that second set. They end up dropping that second set 21-19 to Haley and Kylie. We go to the 3rd set, and it's a win for Kylie and Haley, 15-11. Savvy serving into the net on the final point and then falling to her knees, and we're all thinking, oh, just hurts. You know, that hurts. It almost feels unfair. But you could feel the same way about Triborn and Evan Corey, both guys who just fell short in season number 1, just falling short again here in season number 2. And for Jaden Whitmarsh and Devin Newberry, a little bit of a different story. They weren't in the mix last year. They had a great run this year, and I think the future is bright for Jaden and Devin. But Jaden and Devin falling short as well to Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw. That one a 3-set as well, I should say. Devin and Jaden doing an awesome job to take that first set 23-21, and then you know how that goes. Kelly and Molly fight back in that second set, win that 21-14. And then a hard-fought 3rd set there between Devin, Jaden, Kelly, and Molly. Kelly and Molly win it in extra points, 18-16. So Devin and Jaden just missed qualifying for the league. Kelly and Molly moving on. Now, at that point, Kelly and Molly hadn't sealed the deal, but it was really all but at that point. Kelly and Molly move on to face Rodriguez and Urango in the second round in the quarterfinals. They won that one just about a half an hour ago, maybe 45 minutes at this point, to punch their ticket for the league. They have, at worst, now a third-place finish and a third-place finish, which nobody at this point can beat. We still got our eyes on the final game with league implications. Let's put you back up on the screen here. Let's take you back to the sands of Huntington Beach, and let's listen in here for a minute. It's Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft. With a win, they're in. Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst with a win. It's a tiebreak at worst. They could tomorrow win one match and then seal their spot and flip-flop things. We're talking third and a fifth here if for both teams if Hodel and Van Gunst can win. We were 10-11 at the side switch. Let's go right now to the beaches of Huntington Beach. Rob Spiro and Victoria Dennis in the call.
Like Sarah Wood, who's playing in the
for those on Instagram, if you want to watch along, go to Bally Live or head over to YouTube. Go to the Bet the Beach YouTube channel for all the visuals. Little stripped-down version here on Instagram Live, but a bells and whistles here on YouTube. 12-11 right now, Cannon Craft.
Great on-to action from Hodel, taking advantage
Option
of
ball
that
for Zolani
lifted
Hodel.
first ball contact from Van Gunst. Look for them.
So we're at 12-12 there in the final match with league implications. As far as everything else on the women's side, Huntington Beach Open is still a tournament. It does still have some money, carry the day. TKN winning 2 in a row. They end up beating Kylie and Haley in that 1-8 matchup. That one a 3-setter. TKN, Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss move on. Two-Face, Kelly Chang, and Molly Shaw. An awesome match there. That's a good measuring stick game for Kelly and Molly for a new partnership there. We know what Kelly and Sarah were able to do against TKN and vice versa. We know kind of how that one shook out. We don't yet know what Kelly and Molly look like against TKN, so that'll be a good semifinal matchup. All good semifinal matchups tomorrow. The other match in progress right now, besides the one that we're keeping an eye on here on the screen right here, is Brandy and Mel, the 2 seed overall. They win that the first matchup with the 15 seed pretty easily, as you'd expect them to. They moved on to face Corinne Quiggle, Megan J. Rice. That's the 10 seed versus the 2 seed, and that one is going on currently on Stadium Court. But for me, I think all eyes are on Therese and Megan, Zolani Hodel, Tegan Van Gunst. I'm thinking here in the next 10 minutes, we're going to be able to call it. We're going to be able to tell you who is in and who is out. But if Zolani Hodel and Tegan Van Gunst can end up getting a win here, that story moves to tomorrow, and we still have league implications on semifinal and final Sunday, AVP Huntington Beach Open. So I'll say this, too, as we have a minute, 14-14 on the side switch, on the 28-point side switch here. Qualification. How did it go? How do we feel about it? I'd like to get your thoughts in the comments here in the chat. Let me know what you think. If you liked it, if you loved it. I got one here. Do you think Tri and Evan deserved a wild card? Great question from Sparky the Racer. Do I think Tri and Evan deserved a wild card? That's a hard one because as much as I love both those guys, Triborn calling in to the Bet the Beach live stream a couple weeks ago. Tri's my guy. I've always been a big Triborn fan. Kid will continue to be. And I will pour one out for him later tonight for his falling just short of league qualification year number 2. It's hard for me to say that I think that they would deserve a wild card because if you okay, so who they're going to bump? They're going to book Sean Cook and Brian Miller, who took 2 seconds and a 9th. They're going to bump. That's actually who they would bump because they got the worst finish than Avery Doughton, Warren Harrison. So do I think they deserved a wild card over Sean and Brian? I don't think so. I mean, you know, a guy like Phil, they weren't even going to give Trevor Crabb a wild card until he partnered with Phil, until Phil announced that it was going to be his last year playing beach volleyball. I think the AVP is very cautious with how they dole out wild cards, and I think that's the right way to be. I think unless it's a no-brainer for the popularity, unless it's a no-brainer for eyeballs, I think you have to defer to letting it be a meritocracy, letting the results figure themselves out. Tri and Evan they didn't have all 3 opportunities, which was tough. Tri blowing out his back before the first qualifier. And then I think in that second qualifier, I haven't heard him say this, but he did look like that back was still bugging him a little bit. So he wasn't 100% for sure for at least 2 of the ones he was able to play in. But Tri and Evan had a couple opportunities here. Tri and Evan could have gone on a run either 2 weeks ago in the qualifier or today on the qualifier and gotten a second or gotten a first. First would have sealed it up. A second would have made it a pretty good argument, and a third would have at least put him in the mix. So, Sparky the Racer, I think to answer your question, I think no. I don't think the AVP should have given them a wild card. I'd love to see them in the league. I think they'd be good for the league. Do I think they're probably better as far as eyeballs go, as far as entertainment goes, than an Avery Drost and a Wyatt Harrison? Yeah, I do think that's the case. But they had an opportunity to win, and they didn't. The AVP chose not to give Kelly Chang, a two-time Olympian, an injury wild card, if you want to call it that. She technically qualified for a spot with Sarah Hughes. Sarah Hughes gets injured. She picks up a new partner. AVP could have said, yeah, you get this. You take your spot. You take it. You're on the Nitro. You move on. Take your new partner. They chose not to do that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity as for us beach volleyball fans to talk about that and to mix it up and argue they deserved it, they didn't deserve it. I think the right thing to do, unless it's a no-brainer, is to let the results play out and follow what the results are. And I think ultimately Tri and Evan fell short, whether it's because Tri's back injury, whether it's because Avery and Wyatt just went on a crazy run in the last few days, with Sean Cook and Brian Miller taking 2 seconds. Nobody expected them to. It's hard for me to say just because Tri and Evan are more recognizable names, just because they had the better careers than a Sean Cook and a Brian Miller, all told in total, that they should be in the league. Listen, I mean, if you're just going to make a league and put whoever you want in it, go ahead and do it. But I think that's why you retain 2 wild cards and you hold back. So I think AVP kind of got that one right. As far as AVP getting it right or wrong, and right now we are 18-15. Cannon and Kraft over Hodel and Van Gunst. So Cannon and Kraft now 3 points away. They can side out to a spot in the AVP league. Let's get the audio up here for you.
Hodel winds up and tries to shoot it over the net, but falls short of the net.
That was the right look there from Hodel. That spot was wide open, just going a bit too short.
And now a 4-point lead for Cannon and Kraft. Hodel and Van Gunst on the ropes. Their slim opportunity at a spot in the league seemingly fading away. Therese Cannon back to serve with the 4-point lead. And they get the A serve on the line of Zolani Hodel. It is now 20-15 on the 35-point side switch, and I can feel pretty comfortable in telling you Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft are taking the 8th and final spot in the AVP League. So what did we learn today? We had 2 spots on the men's side, 2 spots on the women's side. Avery Drost, Wyatt Harrison go out and take a 5th-place finish. 3rd and a 5th wins it all. Sean Cook and Brian Miller, they barbecued. They take a 9th, but they had a 2nd-place finish, and it happened to be just enough. Theo Brunner and Troy Field with an opportunity in that 3rd set, leading late over Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans. Not able to close it out, not able to seal the deal. Chase and Miles ended up coming back from a 2-point deficit to take that 3rd set. They move on to the semifinals. Theo and Troy ending up with a 5th and a 5th, which does not trump the 2nd and the 9th of Sean Cook and Brian Miller. And right now we have an opportunity for a side out for victory.
On the win. And we have
and Megan Kraft with a swing deep seam, and Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft are in the league. Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw claimed the spot earlier. Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft claimed it just about 4 seconds ago, so we know who's going to be in the AVP league. On the women's side, it's Kelly Chang, it's Molly Shaw, it's Therese Cannon, and it's Megan Kraft. So that's really the whole story now. Kelly and Molly moving on to a spot in Sunday's semifinal. They will face the winner of Corinne Quiggle and Megan J. Rice. Mel and Brandy took the first set 21-10. I think it's pretty likely that you're going to see Mel and Brandy versus Therese and Megan in that semifinal. So if you're a fan of the highest level of volleyball you can get, you get your 1 seed and your 4 seed in one semifinal. You're going to have your 3 seed and your 2 seed. And I would say those are pretty inarguably your 4 best teams on the women's side that play currently in the AVP. You can't argue with what will be an exciting semifinal and final Sunday. On the men's side, a little less chalky. Benish Partain get it done. They're the 1 seed. But Hagen Smith and Logan Weber with an upset over Baumgren. Lotman, Kame, and James got upset by Allison and Filio, so you got a 12 seed in the mix there, but you got 3 of the 4 best teams in the tournament on the men's side, and you got the 4 best teams that play on the AVP on the women's side in a semifinal and final Sunday. Therese and Megan looks like they're probably going to go up against Mel and Brandy, although that one not quite done yet, and Taryn Brasher, Kristen Nuss taking on Kelly Chang and Molly Shaw in the other semifinal. So what does that mean for the AVP League? Let's take a look at the teams. Actually, you know what? We can do it off the top of the head. Let's see if we can test ourselves here. I promise I'm not looking. So the auto bids. Gino Urango and Tony Rodriguez from the San Diego Smash. They won the whole thing last year. They are in the league. Haley Harwood and Kylie DeBerg, they finished top 4 finish, so they get the auto bid from last year's result. They are in the league. The league opting not to give Kelly an injury sub, so she had to qualify. So we'll put her finger up second to last, as she should be, based on where she fell in qualification. So we got 6 spots to go. Wild cards awarded to Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, Taryn Brasher and Kristen Nuss, TKM, and Mel and Brandy, Melissa Humana Parodies and Brandy Wilkerson. So that's 4 spots available, 4 spots left to be determined. Corinne Quiggle and Megan J. Rice, they qualified a few weeks ago by winning AVP League qualifier. They are in. You have today Kelly and Molly qualifying. I'm missing one here. I got to think of it. You have Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft qualifying and taking a spot just a few seconds ago. And that final spot goes to Lexi Denneberg and Julia Donlin. Julia Scholes, new last name, Julia Donlin, Denneberg, and Donlin winning the second AVP League qualifier. Those are your 8 teams as qualified for the AVP League on the women's side. Kelly and Molly doing it today. With at worst is going to be a 3rd place finish. Therese and Megan doing it today with a win. At worst, their finish is going to be a 3rd. So at worst, they get a 3rd and a 3rd. Nobody at this point can beat that. Kelly, Molly in, Therese, Megan in. On the men's side, all right, let's test it out again. San Diego Smash, Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans, they won the whole thing. They're in. Andy Benish, Miles Partain, Dallas Dream, they came in 2nd last year in the AVP League. They got the auto bid for the top 4 finish. They're in. Taylor Crabb, Taylor Sander, New York Nitro, they were the best team all year long. They ended up taking a 4th in the league championship weekend, but they get the auto bid for a top 4 finish. They are in. Wild card, Trevor Crabb, Phil Dahlhauser, the Thin Beast in his last season on the league. The Thin Beast, Trevor Crabb, getting the wild card. They lost today in the 2nd round. They beat Tryon Evan. They lose to Andy Benish, Miles Partain, but Phil still got it. You watch him, he still got it. So Phil, Trevor, auto bid, they're in the league. AVP League qualifier number 1 went to... Not sure. I'm going to have to think about that one for a minute. AVP League qualifier 2 went... 1 went to Hagen Smith and Logan Weber. So that's your 5th team there in the league. AVP League qualifier number 2 got Kames Schock and James Shaw. That's your 6th team. Then your 7 and 8 spots were available today. The first one qualified with a 5th place finish, a 3rd and a 5th. Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison. Congratulations, guys. We wouldn't have put... I don't think a lot of people had them on high on their list as far as qualifications goes. I know I certainly didn't. But Avery Drost and Wyatt Harrison end up taking a 3rd and a 5th. That's enough to qualify. And the 8th and final spot in AVP League season number 2, that goes to Sean Cook and Brian Miller. They took 2 seconds in the first qualifiers, but you can only bring 1 to the Huntington Beach Open. So they took that second. They barbecued today. They lost in that first round to Troy Field and Theo Brunner. Tough draw, as I said, in the 7-10 matchup against a team that was dangerous, that needed to win that one. Sean Cook and Brian Miller get to go back to the tent and sit there nervously for an hour and a half as we watch Troy Field and Theo Brunner just barely lose to Chase Buttinger and Miles Evans. An awesome match there. I hope you watched it. Troy Field was streaming it on Instagram. We love Troy for doing that. We were all in the chat rooting along. Troy and Theo ended up falling just short. Sean Cook, Brian Miller end up taking that final spot. So a lot more to talk about as far as the AVP League goes over the course of the next weeks and months. I think we're 2 weeks away from stop number 1. I think that's Palm Beach, I want to say. So within the next week, we're going to know the teams. Once we know the teams, we can start breaking down schedules and who's the favorites and all that. Not time for that yet. What I do want to do here is take a minute to look back and talk about how AVP League qualification went. I heard a lot of people bemoaning, maybe that's a little bit aggressive, single elimination tournaments as far as not giving a players a good opportunity to qualify for the league. You don't get your cream quite rising to the top. From a content perspective, I think single elimination was awesome. I think having every one of these matchups mean a ton. Like today, every matchup meant a ton. I think that was spectacular for the sport. I think, and the fact that it was every 2 weeks, you never got an opportunity to really rest. It was just, you lose one, you're back the next week, you got to get another result in there. I like that a lot. I was a big fan of the single elimination 3 straight weeks for 3 spots in the league. I do think single elimination 16 team sets to 15 as they had in the first 2 qualifiers. That I didn't love as much. I'd love to see them go to 21-21-15. Because if you're talking single elimination, that 1 second get away from you within the first 5 or 6 minutes, a couple of trickle aces, and you're going to lose that, and you're going to lose that set, you're going to lose that match, and you're going to lose that tournament. And an opportunity for a good team to potentially have 2 or 3 bad minutes and not make the league. So I'd love to see, if you're going to go single elimination for a qualifying spot, they all need to be 21-21-15, in my opinion. These matches today are getting over in an hour, just like the ones were for the qualifiers. You had a little more time, but they seem to make it work today. They're pretty much on schedule. They should be wrapping up at 8 o'clock. We have our last match here. It's 8-5 second set, Mel and Brandy up on Quiggle and Rice. So I'd love to see them go 21-21-15 for any single elimination qualifiers. As far as single elim goes, I like it. I think it's, from a fan's perspective, I think March Madness, NCAA March Madness basketball, single elim is part of what makes that tournament so great. So I like the single elim part of it. And then you want to take a look at the teams that qualified. There aren't a lot of arguments you can make for the best teams having made it. And I know, as we talked about, Savvy Abby Van Winkle, it's really tough to see. But based on their results from the last 2 years, you could say they are potentially the 8th, 9th best team playing on the AVP. That's where they ended 2 years in a row, and I don't think they're far from that spot, realistically. I don't think the format is what cost Sav and Ab the spot in the league. Same could be said for Triborn and Evan Corey. As far as names go and as far as what you think that team could be, I'd like to say that they're the 5th or 6th best team in the league, but they haven't played like it. They've played like the 8th or 9th best team in the league, and that's where they ended up. So the format I ended up liking. So congrats to the AVP on the single elim. It made the last 6 weeks thrilling, compelling, and great content. From the 21-21-15, I want to see that in all 3. Get away from the 15-15-15. I'd like to see that in the league, too, if we can get to a point there. No complaints on the league. I know what you're trying to do there. It's fast-paced. I kind of like it in the league. As far as qualification goes, I'd like to see the 21-21-15. As far as the content goes on Bally Live, on YouTube, I think we could see some improvements there. I would love to see a red zone style wraparound broadcast. If you're going to do 4 courts at once, which I think is tough for some of these matchups, me and 150 other people were in Troy Field's Instagram Live earlier watching that matchup, which was on court 3, because it was the only matchup that meant something at the time, really. I mean, Alisson and Alvaro's match meant a little. Troy and Theo's match meant everything. I'd love to see Troy and Theo's match get on a screen somewhere so we can watch it. If you're going to run 4 courts, I understand sometimes that you have to do that to fit it. I get it. It's a lot of content you're trying to pack in. But get me a wraparound style broadcast so you can get 4 screens and you have somebody taking me from court 1 to court 2, court 3. It's what I tried to do in qualifier number 1. It was well received, I thought. I don't see why the AVP can't put that together. So if we're going to stick with these 3 straight weeks of qualifiers for the league, which honestly I didn't end up hating, I didn't have a good answer for how they were going to do it, and I think they did it well. Some tweaks could be made. We need to work on the broadcast, I think. We can't have courts 2 and courts 3 in the ether with players Instagram Live on their phone, and we're in the chat trying to figure out what the score is. That's something I think we need to improve, and I think the AVP would agree with that. I think the AVP knows that's something that needs to get fixed. So this is my opportunity to stand up on a soapbox and say, I liked the single elim 3 straight tournaments over the course of 6 weeks. I think that's made for compelling content. I'd love to see single elim go 21-21-15, get away from the 15s. It's not enough time to get the right result that you want. So I'd like to see that fixed. The broadcast, I want to see that fixed. I do think we need to get a wraparound style so you can take us from court 1 to court 2, court 3, whatever match means the most, we'll go to that court. Besides that, I think AVP, nice job. Now we turn our attention to the league. We got a whole summer of AVP League season number 2. We'll see how they can grow, get better, learn from last season. We'll see how they can improve. Really on the women's side, I don't think you make an argument that a team got screwed. I think probably you can say you have 7 of the 8 best teams on the women's side in AVP League. And I think on the men's side, you could probably say you definitely have 6 of the 8 best. And the 2 that did make it, I think made a pretty compelling argument for it. So with that said, I'm going to step away. I want to thank you all for joining me on Instagram. I want to thank you for joining me on YouTube. A lot more content to come here on Bet the Beach. An excellent day of volleyball here today. AVP League's all said and done, wrapped up, put a bow on it. We know who's in the league. Now we turn our attention to Final Sunday. 4 great semifinal matchups and then 2 great finals. Coming at you tomorrow on Bally Live. For me, for Bet the Beach, I say good night. Have a pleasant tomorrow, and I appreciate you as always. See ya.